This is DW News Africa. Coming up on the program, the human rights campaigner now bidding to become Kenya's next president. Boniface Mwangi announces plans to run for president in 2027, hoping to harness Gen Z anger at William Ruto's leadership. He tells us why he's decided to run for office now.
Because you have failed leadership in this country and the president of this country does not care about the people. There's reckless borrowing, there's murder in the streets, and Kenya is not safe at all.
Hello, I'm Christine Mundwa. It's good to have your company. The opposition in Kenya is gearing up to take on President William Ruto in the 2027 election. Ruto has become remarkably unpopular since taking power in 2022, in part because of his proposal for aggressive new tax measures, seen by many as a betrayal of his campaign promise to help the country's working class. His finance bill has triggered a wave of protests that began last year, with thousands of young people taking to the streets calling for Ruto's resignation. Now, protests that turned deadly as demonstrators clashed with police. Now, with more demonstrations taking place in June and July this year, leaving 65 people dead, according to a police watchdog. Now, all putting further pressure on Ruto's leadership, with young people increasingly becoming disaffected amid a cost of living crisis, high unemployment, and growing allegations of corruption and police brutality. Now, hoping to harness that anger is Boniface Mwangi, one of Kenya's most prominent human rights campaigners, who has announced a 2027 election bid. Mwangi is a fierce critic of President Ruto, and his candidacy is seen as a test of whether popular support for the recent protests can translate into political change. The 42-year-old former photojournalist unsuccessfully ran for parliament in 2017 on an anti-corruption platform. In July, Mwangi was charged by a Kenyan court with illegal possession of ammunition linked to the protests last month, which he denies. And I'm now joined by the man himself, Boniface Mwangi, human rights activist in Kenya, who we've just seen announcing his bid for the presidency in 2027. Welcome to DW News Africa, Mr. Mwangi. As I've just said, you have been a prominent activist in Kenya for a very long time now. Why have you decided to run for presidency now?
Because you have failed leadership in this country and the president of this country does not care about the people. There's reckless borrowing, there's murder in the streets, and Kenya is not safe at all. And I've realized that if we do not reclaim back our country, it's going to get lost. So I'm running to clean up this country and to ensure that the president is held accountable for his crimes, for corruption, and that he goes to jail.
Mr. Mwangi, there've been violent clashes in recent years between police and protesters in Kenya. These have often grabbed international news headlines. Many of these protesters have been killed and others left with life-altering injuries. Could you give us a sense from where you're speaking from as to what is at the heart of the discontent that's fueling the unrest and tension in Kenya?
So it has not been clashes. It has been police killing innocent people for carrying a placard and a flag. It's been about Kenyans being killed for demanding accountability. It's about a president who's very intolerant, abducting kids and assassinating them and disappearing them. And the reason why he's doing that is that because there's a high level of unemployment in this country. And so when young people come together to protest about the unemployment, the corruption in the country, they get murdered. So it's a state that is waging violence against its young people. And that's where the problem lies, that our president does not listen and he responds with violence every time.
You're talking about the unemployment rate there, and despite being the biggest or having the biggest economy in East Africa, many Kenyans still live in poverty. You're now announcing your bid for the presidency. That is something that you would have to tackle. What is your plan then to change this?
Stop the theft, actually. One of the biggest problems we face as a country is that we pay first-class wages to our members of parliament, to our ministers, and we're a poor country. So we need to stop paying extravagant salaries, cut on expenditure, live within our own means, and then stop borrowing recklessly and stop the theft. It's actually our president, the former President Kenyatta, said that Kenya loses $200 million every day through corruption. So the money that repairs tax is stolen. We are the most highly taxed people in the world, and we still don't get services. We get highly taxed, and to get a service, you must pay a bribe. We're one of the most corrupt countries in the world.
A lot of the things you've addressed now pertain to governance. But you might very well know that President William Ruto is being encouraged to undertake reforms by international financial institutions, for example. Many of those reforms which are not particularly popular with the public, but are deemed necessary to keep the Kenyan economy afloat. Reforms that have to do with the country's high debt levels, for example. Is it fair to say that fixing Kenya's economic, particularly the structural economic problems, won't be a quick and easy fix, regardless of who is in power?
True. But basically, the money that has been borrowed for the last 13 years has been stolen. So every Kenyan in this country owes about $2,000. The moment a child is born into debt. Instead of having a bundle of joy, it's a bundle of debt. And that needs to come to a stop. We have a high appetite to borrow so that we can steal. What do we need to do? The money that has been stolen, the money that has been borrowed and stolen, can't be recovered. It's money that we know it is. The buildings that were built with that money can be auctioned and the money recovered. And there's also a possibility that the odious debt of this country belongs to individuals, and those people should pay the money. The current president was deputy president for 10 years as Uhuru Kenyatta's deputy president. That means he's part of the reason why we're in this mess. In the last 10 years, they borrowed over 8 trillion shillings, and that money has just disappeared into white elephant projects or just utterly stolen. So we cannot, as a country, own a bad debt that we did not take. We must engage the lenders and say, the money you gave to us never came to us. The borrowers must pay that money. And I think we're going to refuse to pay some of the debts that this country owes if we can prove that it was stolen from us. And the people who stole that money should be held accountable criminally for stealing that money.
Right. You would be presumably taking on President William Ruto, who secured half of the country's, in fact, a little bit more than that, to be able to win the presidency, secured half of the votes in the general election in 2022. Do you believe you have a realistic chance of winning?
Yes, I do. So the majority of this country is young people, and we have about 10 million young people who are still unregistered to vote, and they're going to vote to register to vote. Number one. Number two, there are 8 million Kenyans who did not vote in the last election, and they had no reason to vote. Now they have a reason to vote. That's 18 million. Even if it's half of them, that's 4 million. Another kid's 6 million. That's 10 million. And then in the last election, he lost. The other competitor had 6 million votes. So you have about 20 plus million Kenyans who don't believe in his vision. And additionally, the people that voted for him and he has let them down will not vote for him again. So this country is mine to lose. This election is mine to lose because this man is going to go home. And we have been saying, actually, in 2027, if it's Ruto and the dog will win.
Right. Mr. Boniface Mwangi, we appreciate your time here on DW News Africa.
Thank you.
Now, to give us some more insight and context to some of the claims made by Mr. Mwangi, DW correspondent Edith Kimani joins me now. So, Edith, in the interview we've just heard, Boniface Mwangi makes a lot of allegations that young people are being abducted and killed, police brutality and widespread corruption. What evidence is there for his portrayal of Kenya under William Ruto?
Well, rights groups, including Amnesty Kenya, have come out to record and report over 60 people who were killed during the mass anti-government protests that occurred here in Kenya in June of 2024 and again in June of 2025. Now, Amnesty Kenya went a step further and tied these killings to police, and the Independent Policing Oversight Authority agrees with them. IPOA has publicly accused police of using excessive force. And it's not just IPOA and rights groups. The individuals individuals who are on the streets and who've been victims of these crimes have been putting them online for everyone to see. Now, of course, not all of them are verified. And so international and also local media have done a really good job of following specific cases of abductions. We've seen clandestine detentions and even up to now, people who are still looking for their loved ones who are missing. And so Boniface Mwangi certainly has fit to stand on when he makes these accusations.
Edith, what is Kenya's government doing to address this growing discontent among Kenya's youth particularly, but also these allegations of corruption and police brutality?
Well, President William Ruto, as recently as last month in July, signed into law an act that's basically supposed to check how public officers use that office and not take advantage of it. And as recently as just a week ago, he put together an 11-person team that's supposed to also take on anti-corruption. But Kenyans are not buying it. They say that this is just another effort by him to weaponize the law and use it to his advantage. And so he's making an effort, but it's not quite translating the way he wants it.
Now, Boniface Mwangi, he's got a big profile in the country, but we have to point out that he wasn't successful in winning his constituency seat in the 2017 parliamentary election. He's very confident of his chances, as you would have heard in that interview. And I wonder if he's right to be, right? He talks about the millions of disaffected Kenyans who didn't vote in the last election. Can he mobilize them?
Certainly, if he's to turn his fans into supporters, because he does enjoy quite a number of fans. These are young people who've seen Boniface Mwangi as a kind of political hero. They've seen him stage audacious protests. They've seen him get arrested. They've seen him get harassed, including his family. But they just don't see him as a politician, the charismatic caricature of politicians that we're used to here in Kenya. And that's going to be his first challenge. His second challenge, which is also another immediate one, is that he has a case in court. At the moment, he's facing charges of illegally possessing ammunitions, claims that he has denied. But down the line, when it's time for the ballot, this might come to be a problem for him. And so there is optimism, and he certainly thinks he has a chance. But 2027, when the election is set to be, is a long way away, and a lot could happen in that time.
All right, that's our Edith Kimani joining us from Nairobi. We appreciate that. Thank you, Edith. Now, Mwangi's candidacy will still have to be cleared by Kenya's Electoral Commission. But in the meantime, he'll be doing all he can to galvanize support from young Kenyans who've largely spearheaded the anti-government protests in the country. Those demonstrations have so far been seen as decentralized and leaderless. But activists from the so-called revolutionary Gen Z movement are now trying to organize themselves. DW's Felix Maringa met some of them in Nairobi.
Joshua Okayo and his team are in hospital to visit young people injured during recent protests in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. He's a lawyer and a leader of a group known as the Revolutionary Gen Z Movement, which has over 3,000 members across the country. They hand out essentials like soap and toothbrushes and promise support. Joshua Okayo knows how important this can be. He says he himself was abducted and tortured over the demos last year. He believes being part of an organized group is the only way to get the political and social change that Kenya's youth want and to protect protesters.
We know if we organize, we are going to be 2 steps ahead of the state. We cannot just be going to the streets, people die, others are maimed, and then we go back home and then plan another, and we never care on the best way to reduce the deaths or even cancel the deaths completely, but still ensure that the message is conveyed. Organizing also helps us to be able to raise funds for some of these things that we are doing. Because if we are not organized, we are not able to brainstorm on ways to raise funds.
They meet every Thursday evening in Nairobi's Central Business District in a forum dubbed Bunge la Gen Z, which is Swahili for Gen Z's parliament. Members come from various backgrounds and professions. They use the forum to speak about issues facing the country, police abuse and economic pain. They stream the event so more people can take part.
Bunge la Gen Z was formed to offer Gen Zs a platform where they could have conversations on issues that affect them, conversations where we can agree to disagree and sort of come up with solutions in terms of issues that affect us. The plan is to ensure that we have a bunge la Gen Z in every single ward in Kenya. Well, it's difficult because you need financial resources to hit the ground and establish and mobilize. So we started with Nairobi, which is the easiest because in Nairobi people are online.
The protests have become increasingly violent over the past year. In the latest unrest, demonstrators and police clashed, leaving many dead and injured. The group says being organized means they can help people who have been injured or offer legal support to those who've been arrested. An outward display of their organization is this uniform. For them, it's not only a sign of their resistance, but also a commitment to the Constitution of Kenya, which they say has been violated by the political class. Joshua Okayo says getting organized is part of a long-term plan.
We could have achieved so much had we been intentional about organizing and just strategizing and being able to foretell what the state might do in case of anything.
Protest can be done even without leadership, without structure, without anything. But we are organizing to actually overhaul the system. And you cannot overhaul the system and leave a blank space. You don't leave a hollow space. You have to actually occupy those positions.
Being decentralized has allowed the Gen Z protesters to challenge Kenya's political establishment. Not everyone in this leaderless movement is happy with the emergence of people stepping up to lead them, but members of the RGM say that organization is the only way forward.